He didn't want a battle. He wanted to watch you starve. No army to fight here, no fortress to break, just a town and the men who lit it. It is October 1355, and this is not madness. This is a plan. 5,000 to 6,000 men riding out of Bordeaux, led by a prince history would call the Black Prince. They weren't marching on Paris. They weren't laying siege to anything. They were moving fast, spreading wide, burning everything they could not carry. 600 miles through the richest land in France. By December, the devastation would be almost impossible to describe. But to understand why, we have to go back to a war England should never have been able to fight, because France was 5 times his size, and he needed a strategy that turned that size into a weakness. In 1337, Edward III declared himself rightful King of France, a war England had no business starting. 5 times the land, 3 times the people. England could not win by simply outnumbering them, so English commanders found another way to win, not through conquest, but through destruction. They called it the Chevauchée, a great ride, not a raid, but a calculated weapon, designed to break a kingdom from within. Burn the mills. No grain means no food for an army. Burn the bridges. Cut off every village from the next. Burn the towns. Show the French king he cannot protect his own people. A hungry province was a weakened province, and shame was a weapon too. In 1346, Edward III proved the strategy worked. He tore through Normandy, sacked the city of Caen, and pushed within sight of Paris itself. Then he turned north to a hill near a village called Crécy. The French army that chased him destroyed itself against English arrows. 9 years later, Edward's own son would ride the same strategy into Languedoc. October 1355, and the Black Prince crossed into Languedoc, deep into enemy country, far from any hope of reinforcement. Contemporaries called it the fattest land in the world, and his forces knew exactly what to strike first. Windmills, because a region that cannot grind its grain cannot feed an army, and hunger breaks a kingdom faster than any siege. Then bridges, cutting towns off from each other, one crossing at a time, until no village could warn the next. Small raiding parties spread 24 miles from the main column, and within days, the destruction stretched across an entire province. Then they reached Carcassonne, the heart of the region. The lower town was put to the torch, but the citadel never fell, for the people inside had already fled to its walls. The English found French tax records and used them to measure their own damage with cold precision. Over 500 settlements burned, damaged, erased from the map. Hundreds of thousands in lost revenue, money that would have paid for French soldiers who now would never march. And through it all, one French commander refused to fight. He knew what English longbows did to armies foolish enough to charge them, and he would not let pride. So Armagnac watched, and the burning continued unabated. Hundreds of miles away, King John II received the reports, one after another, province after province burning, while his armies stood still and did nothing. This was the trap. Fight on English terms, or watch your kingdom be unmade acre by acre, with no third option. Villagers began fleeing before the smoke even reached them, taking whatever they could carry. Towns that once trusted their king now trusted no one but their own walls. The Black Prince pushed further, deeper into Languedoc than anyone expected him to go. Every mile forward was another town that would never fully recover from what came through it. By late November, the campaign had traveled hundreds of miles across hostile ground. Supplies were heavy, winter was coming, and it was time to turn back toward the coast. They left behind smoke, ruins, and a silence where towns used to stand. In early December, the Black Prince returned to Gascony, his army intact. He hadn't taken a single castle, and he hadn't fought a single major battle. But he had done something far more damaging than either. He had shown France that its own king could not protect it. Across southern France, the counting began, not of victories, but of losses. Towns spent the following decade rebuilding walls that once didn't even need to exist. local lords refused to send troops far from home again, unwilling to leave their own lands undefended. The tax revenue that should have reached Paris simply never arrived. King John II faced a kingdom that could no longer pay for its own defense, let alone strike back. Meanwhile, in Bordeaux, the Black Prince was already planning his next ride. The strategy had worked, and now he would use it even deeper into French territory. In the summer of 1356, he rode north, straight through the heart of France. This time, King John himself decided to fight. The two armies met near a town called Poitiers, and the same longbows that had watched from a distance in Languedoc now decided everything. By the end of the day, the French army had been shattered, and King John II was taken prisoner. The King of France captured, not despite the burning, but because of it. The Chevauchée had done exactly what it was designed to do. History remembers Poitiers, the capture, the glory, but few remember the mills, the bridges, the 500 towns that burned first. The Chevauchée was never meant to look like glory. Sometimes strategy looks like smoke rising over a mill. The farmers, the millers, their children had no part in this war of kings. Yet it was their fields that fed the strategy, their homes that paid its price. Military historians still study it today, not as barbarism, but as calculated war. Centuries later, armies would use the same idea again. Attack what feeds the fight, not just the fighters. The Black Prince never took a single castle in Languedoc, but he had already won the only battle that truly mattered, the one no army could defend against.